is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the altar again, and this time we are here with Sam of the almighty Frozen Soul. Great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Hell yeah, thank you for having me.
Anytime, anytime. It's so great to be able to talk with you. I spoke with Chad on two occasions, right before Cryptovice was released and then like a year after it was released. But now we got this brand new album, Glacial Domination, out now. This is an absolute killing spree of a death metal album. My review of it is it will go down in history as classic as a Tomb of the Mutilated, Once Upon a Cross, Altars of Madness death metal album. So congrats on another epic album. Was the intention, or maybe in terms of feeling, did this feel like you were just picking up where you left off after Cryptovice, or was Glacial Domination meant to be like a new beginning for Frozen Soul in a way?
Um, I think a little bit of both, honestly. I think we were kind of trying to continue the same sound, but still kind of like hone it and kind of carve it out and make it a little more beefed up, if that makes sense. Like a little more, for all of us, it was like pushing us more musically, composition wise, and like experimenting a little bit more. So, it's different than Crypt, but I think, I don't know, I think it's like a better Crypt, if that makes sense. So it's continuing it, but it's just making it like a little bit better, in my opinion.
I like that concept, a better Crypt. That should be a song title right there. I would write that down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be sick.
Well, was there at all sort of like a preconceived vision behind it in a way, especially because, with tracks, collaborating with Matt Heafy of Trivium as well as a track with John Gallagher, it feels like, it was able to sort of continue that momentum, but it seemed like there was maybe some experimentation involved as well, right?
Yeah, I think working with Matt kind of like made us, I don't know, like reevaluate some things, and we were becoming a little more open to, more solos and, just different composition methods that we weren't really like trying before. So, yeah, there's some experimenting on there. We were a little more comfortable, I think, going into the studio too with this record. So, I think it shows. I think it's a super solid record, and we have, interludes with synth going on. And we all like synth stuff. So I don't know. It has a little bit of everything for everybody. But yeah, I think there's definitely just a little bit of experimenting like in there. But in a good way. I think that's, a good thing. So
those synth interludes in a way, like I was like, you just did the Black Dahlia tour, and I know you got some epic tours lined up, and awesome death metal shows, but I think now this will get you on like that Ministry bill. I almost see like I'm
I love that.
yeah, like I think there is some sort of like who in the band is the Industrial fan, because I think it gave it away at that point.
I mean, I love Industrial. I have a Nine Inch Nails tattoo, actually. And I love Ministry. I think I'm probably the biggest Industrial person in the band, but we all collectively love like synthwave and like dark wave and stuff like that. Especially like 80s and Carpenter Brute and things like that. So as far as like being an Industrial person, definitely me, and probably Chris too. I know he likes old Ministry, like with Sympathy and stuff like that. So,
well, I was gonna say, because have you thought maybe like doing, because I love a band like Blood Incantation and how they release like an experimental B-side album, like in a way. Have you thought of maybe kind of like releasing that as like maybe a side quest in the Frozen Soul catalog, maybe a Frozen Soul synthwave album in order to pregame for the next one?
We've kind of talked about it a little bit. It would definitely be something very fun that we would love to do. If it's possible for us to do that, with our tour schedule, I have no idea, but I would love to do something like that. That would be fucking sick. So,
because it's funny too, because I remember seeing you. I remember the date too. I believe it was April 29th on that Black Dahlia tour, and I remember seeing all through May and going into June. I was like, wow, you guys are still on that tour. That was a big long tour, but it seems like you really hit the ground running with it. You were, because it always seemed like every time I went on, I don't think I went a single day on Instagram without seeing a post either from you or from the band or anybody like doing something on tour. 1 minute you're playing at this city, then you're on Garza's podcast. It seems like you were kept busy. There was definitely no days off for any of you, right?
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, that tour was about 7 weeks long, and sorry, I'm so sniffly. All of the days off were just driving. So it was like 14, 15, 16-hour drives. And then we had like around when the album was coming out, just all these podcasts and, stuff we had to do. So it was just like go, 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 like this entire time. But it was fun. It was a fun tour. If I didn't get injured halfway through tour, it would have been a little bit better for me. But it is what it is. Sometimes that shit happen.
I didn't want to bring that up, but you still kept pushing through, so that's pretty admirable.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah,
very impressed.
Oh, thanks. It was a rough one, but hopefully I can go to like the orthopedic surgeon here pretty soon, or find like a new doctor to take me in a little bit quicker, because we have Europe next month. So my ankle's still fucked up, and I really got to get it like better before we go over there.
I believe
we'll
in
see.
you. I believe in you. But
yeah,
the reason why I brought that tour up is because I saw Frozen. The first time I saw Frozen Soul was on the tour that you did with Sang with Sugabog back at the end of 2021. Which was at St. Vitus. Very intimate venue. Everything is in your face, and there's as many people on the stage as off the stage. But seeing you at Irving Plaza, where it's 1,100 cap, and there's a barricade involved, and a much bigger atmosphere. Would you say, for me, it was equally as good, but it was also kind of like a different Frozen Soul experience in a way, where like I was more focused on the crowd and mingling with the crowd at St. Vitus, and whereas Irving, I was like, I couldn't take my eyes off the stage in a way. So like for you, was it maybe a different experience as well, playing on like a bigger stage versus like a more smaller one?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm not sure what the cap is for like St. Vitus, but
200.
I remember that show, and I remember it being very like intimate, because it was so packed. That tour in particular, that was like the first really big tour that we did coming out of the whole COVID thing. So everybody was coming out, everybody was raging, and it was just like every show you could feel the energy from people just not being able to go to shows for so long. And then, it's obviously a smaller venue, but like with Irving, more people are going to there's more people there. There's more, I don't know. It's people going to see, like, a lot of them are going to see Dahlia. So you may be trying to like win over some new fans. People have been going like pretty hard for us, even though we're like the third band on that bill or whatever. But I mean, the energy was there, but I think people were really conserving it for like Dahlia. So it wasn't as like intense to me, like on the bigger stages. But I do prefer like smaller, smaller club settings, in my opinion. It's more fun. I feel like there's less rules too, like at the smaller venues in a way. So there's more stage diving and, shit like that. And that's always a fun time for me. So.
Yeah, doing interviews for me at the smaller places are also 10 times easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah.
I wanted to talk about your approach to bass playing too, because I really just loved your style behind it, your stage presence, the way you hit it, and it's really noticeable on the album too. It really is almost the glue that ties in the guttural growls and the blast beats and all the riffs together. Has there ever been a time where you had a whole bass pattern written and then maybe the rest of the band would write according to that, or do you prefer to have music already present before you start laying down your parts?
Typically my parts are done like almost at the very last time, because we have to iron out all of, drums, guitars, all that stuff. And I kind of go in at the last part and just round everything out, if that makes sense. So I'm trying not to overpower like Michael and Chris, also not trying to overpower like Matt's kick. So I come in later and just try to soften everything out, I guess, if that makes sense, and kind of give it like you were saying, like the glue that kind of comes together. So to answer your question, I wait until everybody's done. Like we'll do rehearsals and I'll kind of have some stuff written, and then maybe it's like towards the end when everything's solidified, it's not really what we want once it's recorded. It's like, oh, this could have a slide here, this could be beefier here, or and then they'll change their guitars. So it's kind of, for me, I wait till the tail end of everything because it's just easier for me.
It's funny you mention that, because I've always said that, like, there's the icing and the cake. You can't have the cake without the icing because it's not a good cake. And I've always said that the bass and the drums are the cake. You need that. The icing doesn't matter without it. But I feel like for you, your bass playing is both the cake and the icing on it. Because again, it did have like the sort of beefing aspect behind it. I maybe it was just my headphones or something like that. But like when when you opened up with Invisible Tormentor, you're in for a brutal awakening.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
The bass to me is a little buried on the new record. And some people have been like kind of complaining about it, but it's there. You just kind of gotta have good headphones and like listen to it. It's not meant to be really pronounced, if that makes any kind of sense. It's just supposed to kind of be there and keeping the flow going and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you.
I think it acts in a way as a third guitar in that regard. So like, because it has its own rhythm and melody behind it, and that's what led me into my next question, because people say, we've heard all those terrible bass player jokes here and there, but like it has both an emphasis on rhythm and melody, which is very important. Does one resonate with you? Do you focus on one over the other in a way? Are you paying more attention to Matt's kicks in a way, or are you paying more attention to the riffs and whatnot with that?
I really pay attention to the rhythm because I feel like we're a very like rhythm heavy groovy band. So like if I get all noodly and weird, we're starting to mess up the rhythm a little bit. So like keeping it concise with like Michael is really who I try to kind of round out and beef up a little bit, because Chris is rhythm guitar, so he's pretty good on that end. But I really try to like fill in that little gap between Michael and Chris's tones with mine, and I've been really happy with my tone lately too. But that's just kind of how it goes. I'm not a technical player. I have not been playing very long. So I'm still kind of learning as I go to what I'm liking and not liking, and what works and doesn't work, So, but yeah.
That was the most shocking bit of news I heard on Garza's podcast, actually, because I thought, watching you play, I thought you were like playing for a very long time. Again, I was very impressed. So when you picked up the bass, and you mentioned you're still learning, is there any like source of inspiration that you're looking at? Are you maybe looking at how Alex Webster and Cannibal Corpse sort of plays, or are you maybe looking at other basses even outside of death metal as a means of inspiration?
I look at Alex Webster is definitely up there with like in terms of like technique and seeing how he plays and watching him. For me, Joe Bench is always a huge inspiration from Bolt Thrower, obviously. She's not a super technical player either, but it's very hard hitting with Bolt Thrower. It's very powerful, and it's still keeping it simple. So I kind of look to her for like a lot of my inspiration. And in terms of like playing live, I just kind of do whatever. Like I'm getting more and more comfortable, like, each tour, but I don't know if you've seen any other interviews, but my first show was with ever playing live was with Blood Incantation and Necrot.
Yeah, I mentioned
first show ever.
Yeah. I heard that on Garza's podcast, and that's one hell of a first show to have, may I say.
Yeah, I was so fucking nervous, and it was just like, whew. Like, because you don't know how this is gonna be, and like I had just really learned stuff, and was kind of just winging it at the beginning, and it just kind of worked out. And not winging it, I mean, I practiced a lot, but it was still like super nerve-wracking because there's people who've been playing 10, 15, 20 years, and you're like, hey, I just started this like a couple months ago.
Yeah. Well, you break
Like,
all
I
you,
gotta get good.
you break all the stereotypes. When I was interviewing Melvins, they said most bass players started off as just frustrated guitar players, but that ain't the case with you.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
no, it's not the case. I mean, I've noodled on the guitar a little bit here and there, like throughout the years, but nothing like serious. But bass is really what I wanted to play, and I've just been, learning pretty much as I go, practicing, studying, watching like rig rundown videos and stuff, and I've just found like going with what I think is best is really the best course. But yeah, that's pretty much it for that.
When it comes to playing live, though, because again, Blood Incantation and Necrot is a hell of a first show to play. But when it comes to playing live, did that almost feel like a completely separate ball game? You picked up the bass, you were practicing like crazy in your room, and then boop, before you know it, you have a live show. Did it feel like a completely different experience because now you have to focus on stage presence and crowd interaction and all that jazz?
Yes, that is like live and practicing and recording are separate entities. You know what I mean? It is playing live for me is like pretty indescribable. It's something that now, after I've done it so many, like hundreds of times now, it's something that I need to do. I feel like it's like very cathartic. I like interacting with people. I can't really describe the feeling other than it's just, there's nothing like it, and it's fucking sick. So there's a lot of variables too, and it's very like in the moment. And I love it. That's why I enjoy touring so much and playing live. But recording is definitely different because it's so strict and serious, and you got to adhere to timetables and whatever. And when you're practicing in your room, that's just kind of like, or at rehearsals, it's relaxed, it's more relaxed or whatever. As we get closer to like tour, it gets a little more intense, but it's not anything close to being like playing live.
Is crowd interaction and stage presence even something you can practice in a way? Because like Chad's banter on stage, and I say banter as a good way, but like Chad's crowd interaction. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily scripted or whatnot, but like it flows so naturally, and I know that something that good doesn't happen overnight. So
I don't think it's something you can practice. You can definitely practice what you think. Like sometimes we coordinate parts, and now that we have wireless, like we're gonna try to start coordinating like walking specific ways and stuff. But as far as like head banging at certain parts, windmilling, coming up and back, it's just kind of how you feel at the time. So like when the crowd is giving you more energy, you're wanting to go up further. You're wanting to be, up in their face and stuff, because they're kind of giving you what you're giving them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that aspect. But, Chad, he's just a natural. I feel like he's gotten better and better because he was originally a drummer.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So him being a front man the last, few years has been a learning curve for him, but it was like he was meant to do it. So he's just kind of goes with the flow, and he is very good at getting people riled up, like in the front and, starting pits and all that stuff. Yeah. So he does a great job. I don't know if it's necessarily like rehearsed for him, but we all kind of just do what we want on stage, which is pretty sick.
Interviewing a fellow Texas death metal peer, Creeping Death, Trey also started off as a drummer as well. So I don't know if that's maybe like a Texas death metal thing where one person starts off as a drummer before taking the role of something else.
I think the drummers have like, no offense to drummers, but y'all have the worst part of the band. It's like the most equipment, the most setting up, the most laborious shit. You never get pictures taken of you. It's just like the unsung hero of the band. So
the most important member too.
It's a critical member of the band, and it's just bless their hearts, man. They work so hard, and it's just yeah, I think some people are like, this isn't for me after, so many years of having to just be in the back or whatever. And Trey, he's super talented. He can do it all. He plays bass, and guitar, and drums, and I'm sure he could probably sing. So
Yeah, well,
um,
in our local scene here, actually in New York, we do have a National Hug a Drummer Day. And
oh, nice.
yeah, and I interviewed Gene Hoagland earlier today, and I said to him, Gene, can you name one drummer who's in just one band? Like, and he was like, no, I can't. Now that you think of it, like, there's no such thing. You'll never find a drummer who's in just one band.
I mean, our drummer is,
But he was in other projects too.
oh yeah, for sure. He has a
So
laundry list of bands he was in.
yeah, so
Um,
his
yeah, they're hard to come by for sure.
yeah
Good ones anyway.
his list on Metal Archives, I think, is the longest out of all of you. So
Oh yeah, probably his and Chris's. Chris's is like astronomical.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but yeah, bless their heart.
God, all drummers out there, you are our heroes. And
For real.
yep. And I have two more questions for you. One is kind of like the overall, like, I never considered Frozen Soul to be like, I never considered Cryptovice or Glacial Domination to necessarily be concept albums and whatnot, but there is like an imagery behind Frozen Soul. I instantly, like, now when I listen to your band, it gives me sort of like a synesthesia effect where I'm always seeing blue. You had the Ice Machine going at St. Vitus in a way. And, you see how Deicide is more on the satanic realm of death metal. You see how Cannibal Corpse is more horror themed in a way. And I mean this is a compliment too. When I listen to Frozen Soul, I actually feel cold. Like, I feel like an actual chill in a way. So was that always kind of like an underlying theme that you all thought of when forming this band? And do you think that's going to be something you mainly stick with? Because Cryptovice, Glacial Domination, they sort of visually and sonically connect in that regard. Is that going to be a theme you kind of carry on throughout?
I think it is going to be a theme that we carry on. It's just fun, and it just kind of like happened to fall in that direction with doing ice theme stuff. You know, it's funny that you say that because a lot of people have told me, like, after, we have the blue lights and the fog and whatever, they're like, I swear they crank up, the AC or turn down the AC, and people feel like they get colder. And I think that's actually interesting. But it's keeping with our theme throughout and being consistent with color schemes and stuff like that. I think it really gives us a little bit of an edge too, but it makes us more recognizable in a sea of red and blood and just the same stuff over and over again. So I think we're going to continue to go with it. And when we were first starting out as a band, it was just something that kind of started happening, and then we just kind of ran with it. So I'm sure we're going to continue to do it until we're not a band anymore. So
Flesh God Apocalypse kind of already beat you to it, but you're more entitled to do it. With your combination of love for synth music and with Blue, you got to do a cover of Blue Dabadi now, like as a silly one.
Oh, that would be yeah, that would be hilarious. We've got some covers already recorded for, I don't know when they're going to come out, but we have some stuff in the bank that'll be really interesting when it comes out. I think a lot of people won't expect some of it, but we're definitely probably going to try to do something similar to like what you're saying, like completely non-metal, but make it like metal. I can't say much more than that, but it's going to be
fair enough.
Might be pretty.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Hey, when death metal bands do non-metal covers, I don't know why, it always works. It always just sounds great. Like, death metal can cover anything at this point. So
yeah.
I
can't remember what band did it. It was a metal band, but they covered "Losing My Religion."
Lacuna Coil. Lacuna Coil.
Was it?
Yeah. Look, I mean, they're my favorite band of all time, and they covered it. Label mates of yours too, but
no, it was like a male singer. I can't remember. This was like 20 years ago when I heard this, but I just remember being like, that is like perfect. It's like a, death metal band covering this, and it just sounded so sick. I love metal covers of stuff. It's badass.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I like Disturbed, but the best Sound of Silence cover was done by Nevermore. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is actually working as a tattoo artist. I follow your work on Instagram, truly a breathtaking work. Is there anything creatively similar about playing bass and, writing music and tattooing? Because both, I feel like tattooing is also a collaboration, a visual collaboration between your client and yourself, and a band is a collaborative effort too. So does one maybe influence the other in that regard?
Um, that's a pretty rough, hard question for me.
My bad.
They're similar. Um, they definitely influence each other. They're very, for me, like drawing, painting, tattooing, especially, is very like a visceral experience. There's blood, like people, sometimes people cry. It's very intimate. It is very like permanent. There's a permanence to it where it's like, I'm giving you this image that's going to be on you, and it's going to be like, skin is a living, breathing thing. So when people choose to have like my art on them and fly to come see me to do tattoos on them, it's like very it's really special to me. And it's very, I don't know, I always remember it, if that makes sense. Like it's just the very memorable, visceral thing. And it's cathartic for me because I'm getting to do what I love for a living, and people enjoy my work. So that's why I own my own shop, and people continue to get tattoos by me. And I think it's similar to like, being in a band and playing music and writing music. It's, it's visceral, live. It's, there's blood, sweat, and tears. There's, people will be happy to see you. They'll fly out to come see you. And it's very intimate because you're seeing those people in that moment. And, we all may die tomorrow. We may decide we don't want to be a band anymore. And so that's like a very like in this moment kind of thing. Both of these things that I've chosen as careers. So I don't know, they influence each other in a way, and they're very similar, but they're also incredibly different too. I feel like they're both very intimate though. And definitely people who love the band come and get tattooed by me specifically because, they enjoy my music and want to spend time with me or whatever. And I have people that I've tattooed that don't even know I'm in a band that decide to come out to one of my shows, and they're like, oh yeah, y'all are sick, and so it's a very symbiotic kind of relationship, and it ebbs and flows.
You gotta play Incarceration Festival and tattoo when you're after your set or before your set, because that would be pretty awesome if you can make that happen.
Where's that at?
Incarceration is in Mansfield, Ohio. It's in a prison that was filmed for Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's more of a radio friendly kind of festival. Like I think Mudvayne was probably the heaviest band to play it, but like they had Slipknot, but it's like the Danny Wimmer festival. So you'll have bands like Breaking Benjamin or Korn or whatnot on that. But
okay.
But hey, play in front of an audience like that, they'll never forget you. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that'd be sick one day.
Yeah.
That'd be badass.
And the follow-up that I wanted to ask with this question is because I feel like with both creating music and tattooing, it's both a form of art that requires a lot of patience as well. You want to make sure that when you're tracking that, you don't want to mess up a single note. And when you definitely don't want to mess up a single line on a client in a way. So, but, when you have to, work on something for a long period of time, is it kind of hard to sort of channel the same emotional energy into that when you work on something for a long period of time? Do you like to maybe feel the same way when you finish a song or a tattoo as you do when you start it?
That's going to be different for everybody, but for me, yes. Like, especially, I don't really know how to explain it, but like when I am emotionally distressed or something, or really stressed out, I tend to produce a lot better work. And I'm not really sure why that is, or like when I'm really depressed or something. I don't know. It's hard. Like when you start something, I kind of always want to be in the same headspace. Because when I get back into it, if I'm not, I feel like I can't channel the same energy into it, if that makes sense. So I feel like hammering it out is good. And sometimes it takes so much out of me, it's good to like come back and look at it later because that was a little intense, like especially with art. Music usually is, for the most part, a collaborative effort of everyone. So it's a mixture. It's really similar to painting and making like physical art, but it's very different at the same time because you may be bringing something to the table that this person isn't even thinking of, that may not be anywhere near that headspace that you're in. So it's interesting in that regard. But yeah, I feel like I have to be in a very specific mind frame to do any kind of creative endeavor, and that's all my work is all the time. So it's like I get a little stressed out, but I love what I do for both of my jobs. So
Yeah, and that's not strange at all. The famous saying, "When we are at our worst, art is at its best." So
yes.
yeah, there's a reason why I personally think, and I feel terrible. I was saying it when we went into lockdown. We are going to get some of the best art that we've ever had in our life, and that was before we had all the unrest. Before we realized how long the pandemic was going to actually be. Before
yeah.
all the madness surrounding it. I interviewed Chad on election day of 2020 the first time. So like, yeah. So like when we when we are at our worst, art is at its best. And every day I kept saying we're going to get some of the best art, visually, musically, we've ever had. I'm ashamed to say that I was right, but it is true. When we are at our worst, art is at our best. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know a whole lot of like shiny, happy artists. Like, you know what I mean? For the most part, they're just brooding and depressed, and they make great art. So that is what it is.
Adam D from Kill Switch Engage is the exception.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few exceptions to the rule, but I don't know. For the most part, I feel like you have to be in a little bit weirder state of mind to produce some really groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're totally crazy, but Archspire is definitely not depressed, but they're lunatics in their own right. So
yeah, they're crazy. Yeah, their riffs are insane.
Yeah, I still don't think that those guys are human with the way that they do it. Like,
yeah, like I physically don't know how they play like that kind of stuff.
And they're the biggest jokesters you'll ever meet in your life. Like, I interviewed them 3 times, and I like had to like hold my mic and like try not to laugh in their face, but they just kept doing it. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for an awesome conversation. And most of all, thank you for this amazing, amazing new album, Glacial Domination. Just, is there anything else that you would like to promote for Frozen Soul or with the tattoo shop, or anything else you would like to plug before we head out?
Sure. We have our annual Wrecking Ball Festival in Dallas, Texas. That is going to be later this year, Halloween weekend. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We have a huge stacked bill. I can't say much more than that, but it's going to be fucking sick, and definitely want to go to that. If you don't go to any other festivals for the rest of the year, definitely try to come down here and see that.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Frozen Soul, Glacial Domination, out on Century Media. Be sure to pick that up. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.
Hell yeah.